Welcome back to another FPL deadline stream. I am on holiday, so the internet is very unstable. I did a few tests before going live and everything was quite good, but kind of typical. As soon as we start, it's the complete opposite. But thank you to all of you who have been sending in messages and also all your questions in already. The aim is to get through every single one of them as always. And thank you very much for the birthday wishes. It's much appreciated. I have done birthday deadline streams before, but not on holiday. So this will be a bit of a different experience. Let's see how it all goes. I did the team selection yesterday, and usually I'd be able to put maybe the transfer tips or do a reaction stream and also a wildcard team, but I just haven't had the time on holiday. But I will be getting the main piece of content out for FPL and UCL Fantasy. At least that's the aim, and hopefully the internet will be better for future streams as well. But I'll be back next week anyway, and business will be the same from Game Week 32 onwards, I believe, in FPL terms. But let's get straight into your questions and comments as always. And we'll start off with Aviad, who says, "Hey Dylan, after a -4, this is my team for Game Week 31. Dubravka, Zabani, Udogie, Bradley, Salah, Diaz, Foden, Maddison, Bowen, Haaland, Isak, Fofana. What do you think about dilemma on midfield and who's the captain?" The captain, it's kind of a bit boring. I think the vast majority of us will go for Salah. On paper, he is the best this week, and I'd only captain someone different in FPL Challenge, but in this game mode, in FPL, it has to be Salah for me. If you want to go a bit differential, I do like the look of Diaz. I wouldn't call Haaland a differential, but he would be right up there for me. I think Aston Villa could play into his hands, and I expect Man City to score a couple of goals there. So I think Salah first for the captaincy, Haaland second, and Diaz third. In terms of any other players to captain, maybe Isak, but that's about as far as I'd go. In terms of your midfield dilemma, that is tricky. I think I'd bench Maddison as you're doing, but it's very close between him and Jarrod Bowen for me. In terms of percentage Foden start, I'd say 80%. Chelsea's finishers Watkins, Gordon, Maddison and Kirkes to Darwin, Foden, Saka and Virgil van Dijk. Good transfers, and of course Watkins is officially ruled out for Game Week 31. Maddison is a sell anyway in the next couple of weeks, and you can maybe bring him back on a wild card later on. Kirkes isn't particularly great. You're upgrading him significantly to Van Dijk. I don't really see any issues with your transfers whatsoever. I'd probably go ahead with them. It's just a question of how many hits are you taking. And this isn't the best, or let's actually say it's not the worst time actually to take too many hits. I wouldn't want to take a -12 or above, but if you're taking a -4 or -8, I'd probably go ahead and do it. Do you think Gusto will play? I'm honestly not sure. We don't know enough about the injury, but it's not looking too good. And there are so many problems that have surfaced in Game Week 31. But at the moment, I'm honestly not sure. Cylindra says, "Hey Dylan, thoughts on selling Maddison and Watkins to Diaz and Isak for a -4? Yeah, I would go ahead and do it. I really would. Diaz has the double in 34. And to be honest, you're free hitting anyway. So that does slightly reduce the appeal of it. But I still think Diaz, between now and Game Week 33, can outscore James Maddison, and you can reverse the transfer in Game Week 35 or 36, depending on when Spurs double. So I don't really mind it, and the forward transfer in particular looks really promising. Start 2, Sarabia, Mateta, 8 Nuri. I would start 8 Nuri and possibly Mateta. I think that's where I'd go. Chelsea's finished. Thank you very much for the birthday wishes. Much appreciated. Same to JP and to Sahil Oamara. Massively appreciated. Happy Human, ZX Trenix, Alex and Shivam. Thank you very much. JP asks, best 2 goalkeepers and 5 defender rotation on Game Week 31 wildcard, bench boost and free hit in hand. So I'm assuming you're free hitting in 34 and bench boosting in 37. It's a difficult one to kind of tackle all 3 of those possibilities. So wildcarding now, and then the free hit, and also a bench boost in 37 with this wildcard, in my opinion. But I think with the best 2 goalkeepers, I'd be looking at Onana and Petrovic potentially. If you want a Game Week 34 goalkeeper who doubles, I'd probably look at Raya or Pickford. And in terms of who to replace, I think Onana will drop out. So I'd go for Petrovic and possibly either Raya or Pickford. In terms of your 5 defenders, I would go for Dallo, who covers the future doubles. I'd also go for 8 Nuri, Gabriel, or any Arsenal defender of your choice, but I'd probably go for Gabriel, Virgil van Dijk, and after that it gets a bit tricky, but I probably would look... This is the thing, you don't need some of these defenders that much like 8 Nuri and possibly Gabriel, but I still like their fixtures before Game Week 34 and even in Game Week 35. But I think I'd go for those defenders. Maybe Van Dijk is less essential for you. And I'd probably still go for Augusto, but he is a risk, of course. He might not start this week. It's probably not an issue for you on the wildcard. You can bench him, but that's something to definitely take into account as well. It was a bit of a tough ask when I was trying to build the best wildcard team for Gameweek 31, but the aim will be to put a video out for Gameweek 32 in terms of the best wildcard team. Thank you, Obina, as well, for the birthday wishes, Awali as well, Omabek, Kerwin, and everyone else. Thank you very much. John Darren as well. JP says, Alisson is supposedly back around Double Gameweek 33. Is it worth having Kelleher on Wildcard 31? I still think it's a good acquisition because he's got that plum fixture this week against Sheffield United. And I also look at Gameweek 33 against Crystal Palace at home. That's another decent chance of a clean sheet. And playing one game of 34, I think that looks pretty decent. But of course, you would want him to start both games in Double Gameweek 34. So it is slightly off-putting. But I still think it's worth considering him. But to be completely safe, I'd probably just go for Virgil van Dijk. And if you just want for a high upside defender, Bradley, of course, is that guy. But yeah, honestly, with Kelleher, I still think he's worth a punt. Trenik says, start Region or Gusto. Not a big fan of any of them, to be fair. I'd probably start Gusto, but really not too keen on any of them, even if Gusto is fit. Not for this week, anyway. Abina says, should I replace Watkins or Gusto for a -4? If yes, who are the best replacements? I'd rather replace Watkins, which sounds a bit crazy, but he's ruled out for this week. He plays Arsenal in Gameweek 33. He has some decent fixtures sprinkled in between, like Brentford and Bournemouth coming up, but yeah, just a lack of doubles. The fixture's been quite poor from now until the end of the season. Gusto, meanwhile, has 2 upcoming doubles. I'd rather keep him. He's currently yellow flagged, and he's not officially ruled out like Ollie Watkins, so yeah, I'd rather sell Watkins, who also can give you a lot of funds to maybe get a Salah or make some upgrades in other positions, such as Virgil van Dijk in the defense. Thank you, Karen, as well, for the birthday wishes, and Pedro. Happy birthday, man. Thank you very much. I'm moving Son and Watkins to Salah and Darwin with free transfers. Should I -4 Ake, Stupinian, 2-8 Nuri? I think so, especially if you aren't free hitting in Gameweek 34. I'd rather sell Stupinian in most cases, but Ake could be out for some time. We don't know exactly how long, but he's officially ruled out of Gameweek 31. And after the Arsenal game, Guardiola said that he probably will be out for longer. So, yeah, I think you probably have to sell Ake. I think that's what is maybe the common sense move. But ultimately, I look at both of them. I think they're both sells. So yeah, I'd probably just sell Stupinian anyway, 2-8 Nuri, and then sell Ake next week, and maybe try to get a Virgil van Dijk in there. Start Gavadio or 8 Nuri. I'd go for 8 Nuri this week. Thank you, El Padrino. Rawan says Wood or Mateta. I'd rather buy Mateta because of the double in Gameweek 34, but they're both decent budget forwards, to be quite honest with you. Same with Cunha and, of course, Muniz. Just to kind of clarify, by the way, for those of you that maybe aren't aware, I have made 2 transfers. I bought in Salah and Muniz. I wanted to go for Cunha, but I'm unsure if he's going to start in Gameweek 31. And ultimately, I have made some transfer plans going into Gameweek 34, which look pretty solid. My plan is the wildcard in Gameweek 35 and bench boost in 37. So yes, Muniz isn't going to double in 34, and instead he faces Liverpool at home, but I can still build a team of 10 doublers and Erling Haaland with just a -4, potentially a -8 hit from now up until Gameweek 34, which I'm quite happy with. And for this week, I actually might take a -4 hit and go for Virgil van Dijk to bench one of Pedro Porro or Zabani. That is the current plan. But before I go back into your questions, let's go for some different screens as we typically do, and hopefully the stream isn't too jarring. Apologies for the drop frames. Like I said, I did some tests earlier and everything was quite fine, but as soon as we started, it has been a bit different. Thank you to Zaz as well. If you had to bench one between Muniz and Palmer, who would it be? I'd rather bench Muniz still, but it is a tough ask this week. Danish says, hey Dylan, would you start Zabani or Borro? That is my big dilemma as well. My current thinking is to start Borro, but I'm in 2 minds about it. And Fantasy Football Hub, for example, slightly prefers Zabani. I think his expected points is 3.7 and Borro's is 3.6. So very marginal differences between the two. I would argue that Bournemouth have a better chance of a clean sheet, but Borro has a much better chance of bonus points or attacking returns. And honestly, I don't think either team keep a clean sheet this week. Thank you very much for the birthday wishes there and to that air. Quick question, start Eze or Sarabia? I'd go for Eze, but very close call there. And thank you to Prince Izzy. And after this, I will go into the different screens and then, of course, continue with your questions. So my team is Neto, Flecken, Gabriel, Saliba, 8 Nuri, Udogi, Pau Torres, Salah, Son, Maddison, Tavernier, Palmer, Haaland, Muniz, Solanke. No free transfer. Do I sell Maddison for Saka or Pau for Van Dijk for a hit? If it's for a hit, I'm going for Saka. It's a far higher upside move. The only downside or the only potential issue is Saka could be benched or maybe subbed off early against Luton Town because he just came back from an injury and he felt some fatigue in the game against Man City. But I think Saka's going to start, and he's also doubling in 34, and I'd rather go for Saka for a hit rather than Van Dijk. So that will be my answer there. Thank you very much for the super chat there, Ahmed. Massively appreciate. Feliz cumpleaños, brother. Thank you very much. Just wanted to send you the warmest wishes for a great year ahead. That's massively appreciated, Ahmed. And thank you very much for tuning in to all the streams and also videos. Very much appreciate your super chat and also your kind words. I hope to see you in the future streams as well. So bless to you as well. Let's now go into the different screens. Let's go to the predicted points. Or actually, no, the FDR is what we start off with. And Liverpool are now top up until Game Week 36. And that double in 34 certainly helps things. Everton, Wolves, Sheffield United and Arsenal complete the top 5. And in terms of those in the bottom 5, Spurs, Aston Villa, Luton Town, Brighton and Burnley, and even teams like Man City quite low down in this pecking order. Now for the predicted points, Haaland is top with 8.5 and Salah is second, but not much separating the two top assets in FPL arguably. Son is third, Jackson is fourth. Fantasy football, I've always loved Jackson, I'm not sure why. Saka's fifth, and then we've got De Bruyne, Tony, Darwin, Isak and Cole Palmer completing the top 10. I do like Isak this week, and I'll show you my FPL Challenge team very shortly. And if FPL Challenge continues until the end of the season, once I'm back from my holiday, I will get some content out for FPL Challenge, 1 video per week, and of course all the usual stuff that I post as well. In terms of price changes, we could see Bradley, Kelleher, McAllister, Semenyo, Isak and Salah all going up in price tonight, and Salah also went up in price just the other day. Watkins, Doughty, Trippier, Senesi, Mikalenko, Ake, Alex Moreno, Edison, Neto, Morris, Douglas Luiz, Simicas and Foden could all go down in price as soon as tonight. If not, it will be later this week. In terms of Drafthound, these are the top 10 players in terms of predicted points according to their algorithm. Salah's top. Then we've got Palmer, Odegaard, Haaland and Son. And of course, Diaz, Havitz, Saka, White and Darwin. So a lot of emphasis is placed on Liverpool and Arsenal, with a few players from other teams like Palmer, Haaland and Son right up there in the mix. And they also have released a new kind of site or a new portion of the website for Fantasy Challenge. So Drafthound have done that. You can also check out So Rare. They've got all of this for you, and Haaland is their top pick. Remember that forward scored double the number of points in FPL Challenge, so captaining any forward, whether it's Isak, Haaland or Darwin Nunez, is certainly advisable. Just by playing alone and getting nothing whatsoever, just 2 points, they will score 8 points for your team as the captain. In terms of the other polls I put out on my channel, I put this one: which of these forwards do you prefer for non-free hitters? And Muniz has won the vote with over half of that. Cunha second with 26% and Mateta in third. And the other poll I put out was in terms of this one, which might apply to my team. What would you do in terms of these transfer plans? Start Zabani, take a -4 hit for Van Dijk, or a -4 hit for Aït-Nouri. And currently, Start Zabani is winning quite comfortably as well with 56% of the votes. Let's now go into the stats comparison of Cunha versus Muniz. I was very close to going for Cunha. He was talked about a lot in my team selection, and I might still go for him at some stage, but I have bought Muniz in the end, and his form since he's become a starter, since Game Week 21 has been incredible. In 10 appearances, that's 8 goals and 1 assist. And to kind of make this comparison fair, I've also looked at Cunha's last 10 appearances dating back to Game Week 15. XG is quite similar for both players. Big chances, Muniz has 2 more. And key passes and big chances created also quite similar. A lot of these numbers are identical, but Muniz more impressive with 8 goals and 1 assist in just 10 starts. He's been incredible recently for Fulham, and long may it continue. I think he could do really well. And one thing that also swayed me towards Muniz, besides being cheaper, is the fact that the upcoming opponents for Fulham, apart from Newcastle, Fulham have done really well against them. For example, West Ham, Fulham beat them 5-0 in the reverse fixture, and Nottingham Forest, they also beat them 5-0. Although it was at Craven Cottage, I'd still expect Fulham to score some goals here, and I think Muniz could be a great option up until Game Week 35. In terms of FPL.Team, This is how my team would look like in Gameweek 32 if I decide to also buy Virgil van Dijk for a -4 here, and it would be Nathan Ake making way. I could start Van Dijk over Doughty. It's also going to be up in the air, but will I even go for Van Dijk in the first place? Let's wait and see. I don't think a -4 here is absolutely necessary, but it does help build my team for Gameweek 34, and I'm utterly convinced that Liverpool will keep a clean sheet against Sheffield United. And the other thing, I think I was asked very early in the stream about a potential wildcard team with no free hit to use in 34. This is something that I would build towards. It's not definitive. There's a few aspects I'm not entirely happy with, but I think Petrovic and Onana as your goalkeepers long-term look quite solid. And you could start Onana in Gameweek 34 against Sheffield United at home. And yes, he doesn't double, but it's a good fixture. And he doubles later on in 37 with some good fixtures in between. So there's a lot up in the air, but this is a provisional Gameweek 31 wildcard team with no free hit to use in Gameweek 34. I'll try to get a wildcard video out in the next couple of days ahead of Gameweek 32 as well. And let's go now to FPL Challenge very quickly and show you what I've kind of built. I have made a few changes from yesterday. I had more of a balanced squad. Arguably, I had no Erling Haaland. Instead, I had Darwin Nunez. But I have gone for something like this. And there is this kind of loophole that actually works in Fantasy Challenge. If you want me to talk about it, I can do so. But this is my current setup. And I'm loading up on Liverpool and Arsenal. And the captaincy will lie between the forwards because they scored double the number of points in Gameweek 31 within this fantasy format. But let's now go back to my team. That's enough talking and rambling. Let's go into your questions and comments as always. Thank you very much to Alex for the super chat. Massively appreciated. And also to Ahmed once again, who I believe has gifted some memberships. Oh no, I think it came up wrong on my screen. Apologies for that. But thank you, Ahmed, for the super chat earlier. And to Alex, massively appreciated, mate. Happy birthday. Have a pint on me. Thank you very much, Alex. I actually haven't had a pint in quite a long time, and it's quite windy here, believe it or not, in sunny Spain. But yeah, thank you very much for that, Alex. Massively appreciate a channel member for some time as well. And I hope to see you in the next few streams as well. So thank you very much. I had a feeling about Wood last time. He didn't disappoint me. Yeah, I think I remember you saying that, Phobia. And that's why you've got to back your gut. I was probably a bit more pessimistic about Chris Wood than you were. And if you followed my advice, you probably would have missed out on his points. Do I wildcard, says Kevish. Got free hit and bench boost left. Well, I don't know your team, Kevish. So unless I know the context of your squad, it's very difficult for me to comment. But yeah, I think if you have the bench boost for 37 and that's where you want to use it, I think a wildcard in 35 might be better. The thing is, you've got the free hit to use in 34. So you're in a good position here where you've got so many different ways to tackle the rest of the season. But for those that don't have the free hit but have the wildcard and bench boost, I think the vast majority will be wildcarding in 35 and bench boosting in 37. Nuclear Atom says this is the most boring, or must be the most boring, deadline day in a while. There's only 2 moves: get Liverpool players and Captain Salah. Yeah, I do part way agree with that. I think that is not a bad shout there. But to be honest, there have been other deadlines where I felt something similar, and a lot of people have made similar moves. But sometimes transfer seems so obvious and somehow it still goes wrong. But thank you very much for the kind words there, Nuclear Atoms, as always. Is Trippier starting? I think he will do, but then again, I thought he would in Gameweek 30. It's not definitive, and I saw some Newcastle sources talking about some potential bad news for Newcastle and a key player missing out, but they aren't revealing who, so I'm not sure how reliable that news is or their source for that. But with Trippier, I think he will start. I did Lascelles to Gavardio in Gameweek 32, Ake 2. I'm doing free hit in 34. In that case, Aït-Nouri, Gabriel and Van Dijk aren't absolutely necessary, but I still like them, especially Van Dijk for Gameweek 33 and 34. And I also like Gabriel in general for the rest of the season. Aït-Nouri is still quite decent, to be honest, up until Gameweek 35. If you're not going for one of those 3, I'd also consider Dalot. I know the timing might be a bit weird, but after Liverpool, we've got some good fixtures there for Manchester United. And Gameweek 34, you've got Sheffield United. Gameweek 35, you've got Burnley. And you've got a double in 37. So I think Dalot could be a great shout for you. Courage says, how are you doing, Dylan? Must be stressful because of the tight deadlines. Drafthound rates Palmer and Haaland more than Saka. Yeah, it's not ideal to have this kind of quick turnaround just when I went on holiday. It was booked a few months in advance, but it is what it is, you know. And I'm still here doing the deadline stream. Hopefully it's all pretty decent in terms of the quality and the lack of lag, dare I say. But yeah, in terms of Drafthound, that's true. Palmer and Haaland are rated more than Saka, but I think that also has to do with Saka's recent yellow flag, and also not playing as many minutes as we thought he would against Man City, and Arteta's comments after the game about Saka not being ready to play the full 90. So I think that plays a big part in that sentiment and also that algorithm. Is Son bad for this match day? Not necessarily. Spurs did struggle in the reverse fixture against West Ham, but I actually expect Spurs to score some goals here. And Son has a decent record against the Hammers, but I don't think he's bad. It's just a question of priorities and finding a way to fund Salah. If I could, I would have kept Heung-min Son 100%, and ideally I'd sell Anthony Gordon instead, but it's just not possible with my setup. Haaland or Saka captain? I'd say Saka for normal FPL. For FPL challenge, I'd go for Haaland, but yeah, Saka for me. Nolil says Richarlison, Darwin, Solanke, or Son, Isak, Manis for the wildcard. That's very interesting indeed. I'd still go for Son, Isak, and Manis. I know Darwin is very tempting for this week and Gameweek 34, but as an overall trio, I really like that Son, Isak, Manis. Yeah, triplet that you have. Yeah, looks really good. Start Diaz or Manis. I'd go for Luis Diaz. Start Martinez or Dubravka. Seems obvious with Dubravka, but I think Martinez might get save points. Yeah, that's true. He's also a good penalty saver. That's not a bad shout, but I'd still go for Dubravka simply because Aston Villa aren't reliable defensively. They're away from home against Man City. Maybe I'm overplaying it. You never know. It could be a low-scoring game like we got over the weekend. I really think City will score a couple of goals, though. Probably 2 or 3. I would say Dubravka, personally. Alif says, hello, Dylan. Great content as always. Keep up the good work, mate. Thank you very much. Massively appreciated. And I am a bit far behind, so I'll try to catch up. And I do apologize if I haven't gone through some of these questions, but I will get to it eventually. If I haven't gone through your comment after, let's say, 10 minutes, be sure to put it again. Do you see any Arsenal players being rotated this game week? I think there could be 1 or 2, but Arteta's not the type to do massive rotation, in my opinion, especially in the Premier League where Arsenal are behind Liverpool now and they're in the thick of it of this title race. Luton Town can't be underestimated, even with their 12, 13 injuries or injury doubts they have going into this game. So with Saka, for example, I think he's going to start, but there might be 1 or 2 players who could be surprisingly benched, so to speak, like Kivior out for Tomiyasu. That's kind of my guess on it and 2 cents. And we could also see Jorginho dropped and maybe Partey has a full 90 or close to that to build his fitness up. So there could be those sorts of changes, but nothing dramatic that maybe impacts your FPL assets. Do you believe Gusto will play? Yes, I believe he will, but I can't tell you that with certainty. Of Preston says, 8 Nuri, Gavardio, Zabani, start one of the 3. It's a great question. I would start 8 Nuri. Do I sell Watkins or Gordon, says Alexander. Don't want to start Sufa or Doughty, or both. I have 2 free transfers. Yeah, I get you. I wouldn't want to start those defenders either. I'd rather sell Watkins simply because Gordon is much cheaper. He's also a decent midfielder as an enabler. He also doubles in Gameweek 37. Great fixtures as opposed to Aston Villa, who've got 1 or 2 decent games, sprinkled in between Man City and Arsenal. And selling Watkins can really open up the doors for you to buy Virgil van Dijk at the back or Mohamed Salah in the midfield. So I'd probably say Watkins. And don't get me wrong, once Watkins is back, he's a good FPL option, but I don't think he's as appealing as he was 1 or 2 months ago. Triple captain Salah. If you were to use the triple captaincy chip on a player of a single game week from now until the end of the season, I'd say now's the time on Mohamed Salah. But if I'm being completely honest, even if you had the free hit and the bench boost and you wanted to use them in Gameweek 34 and 37, I'd still use the triple captaincy on Cole Palmer in Gameweek 35 or 36, depending on my own Chelsea double. That's my preference, but Salah is certainly not a bad triple captaincy shout. I really like it. Start Sabani or Borro. Already have Neto as the goalkeeper. Tricky one. Because you can look at it from 2 perspectives. You double up on Bournemouth defensively, and if they keep a clean sheet, it is absolutely massive this week. But I'd probably spread the risk. That's the way I'd play it, and Borro has more attacking potential. I'm not that confident in Bournemouth keeping a clean sheet against Palace, so I'd personally go for the Spaniard. Who do I buy for Areola, wildcarding in 35? I think Kelleher could be a shout for you, but there is a chance that Alisson starts one of the games in 34. And if you don't want to risk it from that perspective, just go for Raya or Pickford. And Raya, of course, is my preference. Let's see if I can get the chat working. It has been freezing a little bit. Sell Gordon. Depends who you sell to and also what your transfer plans are in the future. Are you free to in Game Week 34? There's a lot that ultimately rides off that decision or that influences what you should do. But I think in a lot of cases, Gordon is worth holding on to. Would you go for Saka or Havitz? Saka. Start Tsimikas or Reguilon? Tsimikas. The thing is, he's not absolutely guaranteed to start, but if he does, really high ceiling against Sheffield United, and you would expect maybe a bit of rotation for Liverpool, although just like with Arsenal, they're fighting for this league title, and you can't underestimate anybody, even Sheffield United. Nabil says, hi Dylan, for a -4, would you do McAllister for Douglas Luiz or Kelleher for Turner? Had Salah and Darwin already, no free hit. So Kelleher looks really good for this week. I think a clean sheet is almost nailed on. Also, decent double in 34, but he might not start both games as Alisson could be back by then. I know you want to cover that Liverpool defence, and I would also do the same. So go for one defender or goalkeeper and 2 attackers. But for a -4 here, I think McAllister's my preference. I really do. Is Salah a must-have player, or should I take a -4 hit to sell from Haaland to Salah? I think Salah is almost essential this week. He pretty much is against Sheffield United. If he starts and gets 70+ minutes, which is almost guaranteed, I think he's going to haul massively. So I'd say so. The problem is Haaland has Luton Town at home in Game Week 33, and he scored 5 goals against them not so long ago. So you'd probably want Haaland back by that stage. The thing is, I think if you don't have a free hit in Game Week 34, that only adds to Salah's appeal, and I'd definitely go for him, even for a -4 hit. Should I buy Diaz or not? I'd recommend Diaz. The fixtures are good, especially this week. The double in 34 looks really appealing. And right now, Diaz is arguably the second best Liverpool asset behind Salah. And if you had to go for the optimal free, I think Virgil van Dijk also forms part of it. So yeah, I'd certainly go for Diaz. It's just a matter of who do you sell. And if it has to be a Son or a Foden for a -4, it certainly isn't ideal. But I think Diaz certainly pays it off over the next couple of weeks. Thank you, Fingun. Have fun, everyone. Happy birthday, Dylan. I don't have Saka. Thank you very much, Fingun, and good luck to you. Maybe if Saka is benched, you'll have a bit of a nice present there. Darwin or Luis Diaz? Luis Diaz right now, definitely. Phobia says Salah will not be fasting at the time of the match against Sheffield. The match will be after sunset. No, I wasn't aware. I remember you talked about some of these things in the recent streams, and it's a good point worth mentioning, but Salah during Ramadan still has a good record. He did it last season, 3 goals in 3 games. So I'm not really too bothered by it, but it's worth mentioning, of course. It's an interesting point of discussion. Muniz or Palmer? I'd still go for Palmer this week. Thank you, B-Ball Checkmate. Massively appreciated. Happy birthday, Dylan. Would you add Gusto or Smith on your wildcard if you wanted a bench boost in 34? Ooh, I got no free hit, but I still support Gusto to have some balance for 37. I understand that because Gusto against Arsenal, very unlikely to get something. But long term, he's the better option by far. I'd still go for Gusto personally, but for a bench boost in 34, I wouldn't really blame you if you went for Smith. I really wouldn't. But looking at the long term and balancing Game Week 34 and 37, I think Gusto is undoubtedly the better option. The only concern is the yellow flag and his potential injury. Courage says, how are you doing, Dylan? Must be stressful. Oh yeah, I covered this, but thank you very much, Courage. Yeah, the quick turnaround between the deadlines isn't ideal, but it is what it is. Thoughts on Havitz? If you want a second Arsenal midfielder, Havitz is a good option. He really is. He's in great goal-scoring form. Before that Man City game, he scored in 4 consecutive games for the Gunners in the Premier League. So I honestly don't mind that, but I still prefer Martinelli and Odegaard overall, and also a double up in the Arsenal defence. Not to mention Saka is by far the best Arsenal option, period, especially from an attacking perspective. But Havitz is a good option. If you're looking for a differential, I'd heavily consider him. He's actually in my draft team, or the Fantasy Challenge League, at the moment. Son or Foden? I'd rather keep Foden. Now, it's a difficult one because in certain weeks, like Game Week 32, I think Son looks better against Nottingham Forest at home. But overall, I think Foden is the one to keep up until Game Week 35. And then you can make the switch back to Son ahead of their double or doubles for Tottenham Hotspur. Hit for a -4, Foden to Salah and Watkins to Mateta, is it worth it? Yes. It's not ideal to sell Foden for a hit, and even Watkins could become a great option in the next couple of weeks, but I think Salah pays it off alone. How does FPL Challenge work this week? Does a forward captain score 4 times the points he gets? Exactly. That's exactly it. Every forward scores double the number of points. If you captain a forward, they'll score quadruple the number of points, even better than a triple captaincy. So if Erling Haaland blanks as your captain, gets 2 points, he'll still get 8 points for you if you put the armband on him. So that's the way it works. You got it absolutely spot on there. Would you bench Muniz, Solanke, or Richarlison this week? I'd probably bench Richarlison. Dryhill says got Salah, Mateta, and Nuri for Trippier, Gordon, and I'm not sure who the third one is, but I like the transfers in, that's for sure. Sharon says, hey Dylan, Solanke or Isak? Right now I'd say Isak for this week. And if you also look longer term, but it's kind of a difficult one because Game Week 34 is the big elephant in the room. So if you don't have the free hit, I think Solanke is the one to go for up until Game Week 35. Then you switch to a Højlund or an Isak. But if you have the free hit in 34, I'd probably recommend Isak actually. The only concern with Isak is his fitness. He can't stay fit for a long period of time, at least based on his time from Newcastle. Do I sell Areola for Raya or Watkins for Cunha? That's a tricky one. I think Areola to Raya is a bigger upgrade, at least for the next couple of weeks. But Watkins to Cunha opens up so many possibilities for you in terms of budget. So if selling Watkins to Cunha allows you to go for Van Dijk and or Salah, that might be the best move for you. But if budget is no issue whatsoever, I'd say Areola to Raya is my personal preference. Will Cunha start? I believe so, but even if he does, I'm not sure if he plays 70 plus minutes. It might be less than that, and you're hoping that he gets 60 plus at the very least. Matt's Collectibles puts his team: Neto, Gabriel, Saliba, Zabani, Palmer, Saka, Salah, captain. Son, Tony, Muniz, Watkins, benches Van de Ven, Bailey, Doughty. Any changes? Maybe Bailey to Diaz. If that's for free, I'd certainly do it. Diaz is a great option up until Game Week 34. Then it's just a matter of who do you bench, and it's probably between Tony or Muniz. So it might lead to a benching headache, but I think it could be worth it. I think getting Diaz in is great. If you don't have the free hit for 34, I'd just get it done. Thank you, Phobia. Massively appreciate it as always. Good to see you. I captained Isak last game week. He got me 30, not 60. Yeah, just to make it clear, last week, the rules or the challenge for Game Week 30 was unlimited budget. In Game Week 31, every forward scores double the number of points. It's not going to happen every single week. So in Game Week 32, forwards will score the same number of points as usual. They won't have quadruple the number of points as your captain. So that's why Isak didn't get you 60 points, for example. But this week, if Isak gets 15 points, or if he does, if he gets 15 points, he will get 60 as your captain. So obviously, that's a big ask to do it back to back, but that's the way it works. Start Muniz or Foden? Foden still for me. I have to go for him. Is a -8 worth it this week? Depends who you buy, but I'm assuming Salah's part of it. I'm actually quite open to taking a -8 hit this week, especially if you're building for a Game Week 34 bench boost or just stacking your team up full of doublers with good fixtures before and afterwards. Watkins to Muniz and Gross to Salah with 2 free transfers. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. I've done something similar myself. Instead of Gross, I sold Heung-min Son. Let's see how that goes, but I think that's pretty fine. Do I take a -8 hit for a goalkeeper? Not ideal. I think the only exception I'd make, and the only way I'd say yes to that, is if you're buying a Raya, Pickford, or Kelleher, who also doubles in 34. But bear in mind with Kelleher, he might not start both games in Game Week 34 because Alisson could be back by that point. Who's the better Ake replacement, Ben White or Virgil van Dijk? Van Dijk for me. Tricky one though, but I think the Crystal Palace and Sheffield United home games sway it towards Liverpool. I think their fixtures are better until the end of the season, but also up until Game Week 35 if you were to wildcard then. Dylan, percentage chance of Trippier starting? I'd probably say 50-50 at this point. Dryhill says, meant to say Salah, Mateta, Nate Nuri in for Trippier, Gordon and Watkins, but aggressive -8. Yeah, despite selling Watkins, I still think that -8 hit is worth it. And I really like that 8 Nuri pick. Mateta's a decent budget forward. I also considered him. It was between Mateta, Muniz and Cunha for me. I ended up going for Muniz, and that was mainly because of Fulham's record against 2 of the upcoming opponents and also my other transfer plans to, build my Game Week 34 team. But Mateta's a nice shout. Good squad overall. Good transfers. Abir says, Son to Salah and Watkins to Mateta. My team is Dubravka, Van Dijk, Gabriel, Zamani, Salah, Diaz, Odegaard, Saka, Palmer, Haaland, and Solanke. I like it. I think the only way you can improve this team up until Game Week 34 is the goalkeeper. But in terms of doublers for that game week, you've got plenty already, and you've got some good single game week options like Palmer and Erling Haaland. So you're in a good position for your goalkeeper to be the biggest worry for you. So good stuff. Andrew Kirkland says, I've taken a -4 to get Salah in. Tempted to take a -8 to take Bodro out for an Arsenal defender or Van Dijk. Is it worth it? I'm in a similar situation. I'm tempted to take a -4 hit for Virgil van Dijk. I still think it's worth it, especially if you aren't free hitting in 34, because Virgil van Dijk ticks so many boxes. 2 home games against Crystal Palace and Sheffield United in the next 3. You've also got a double game week in 34 where 1 clean sheet is possible. And with Van Dijk, you never know. An attack and return is possible, as we saw in the last double game week in 25 for Liverpool. So yeah, I think it is. I genuinely think it is worth a -4 hit. If it doesn't pay off this week, I still think it does by game week 35. Joel Goddard says, Lascelles to Gvardiol and start him, or just start Van Heck and roll the transfer? That is a good question. I like Gvardiol for the long term, but I wouldn't recommend him for those that don't have the free hit for 34 and that are planning on wildcarding in 35. But if that's not your situation, that's fine. I think Gvardiol is okay to start this week. I think Aston Villa could score, even with no Ollie Watkins, but you have to say their chances of scoring have reduced dramatically with that injury. So Gvardiol is a good shout. And with Ake potentially out for a long time, I think Gvardiol could be quite nailed on in the Premier League. Why not Haaland for captain? He will punish us all. My direct opponent will most likely captain him. Well, look, it's not a bad shout. I've actually captained him in FPL Challenge. Yeah, I just think with the quadruple number of points as your captain with that new challenge in Game Week 31, it just makes sense. But for FPL, I mean, I've said this to people before. I think Aston Villa will suit Erling Haaland and you'll do quite well in this fixture. But I still think Salah's ceiling is far higher due to the nature of the opponent. And Aston Villa could frustrate Man City. And I don't know, this season, I think City have been a bit weaker in home matches. I think they've drawn 6 games in the league at home, which is far too many for their standards. But yeah, I don't think Haaland's a bad shout. I really don't. It's a good suggestion from you. But yeah, just keep it a differential for you and enjoy the points. I think that's the way to go. Ake out for Virgil van Dijk -4? Yes. I'm looking at something similar. In fact, I might even do that transfer before the deadline. Thank you very much, Abir. Massively appreciated. I'm out of goalkeepers. Is it worth without a goalkeeper? If you don't have a goalkeeper for Game Week 31, it's not ideal, but I wouldn't be taking massive hits to buy a goalkeeper in. I think the only goalkeepers I take a hit for include Raya, possibly Kelleher, and Pickford, for those that don't have the free hit for Game Week 34. Borro to White. Yeah, that looks good. Borro has a good fixture next week, but he's been just a poor option for the last 10 game weeks, in my opinion. So I wouldn't really be too displeased about selling him. He did get an assist against West Ham earlier this season, but I don't think he's been great recently. Who to partner Solanke in the attack in place of Watkins? Money is not an issue, says JC Snooks. Oof, good question. Obviously, Haaland's the #1 pick in general, but apart from him, I'd be looking at the likes of Cunha, Manise, and Mateta. And of course, Darwin is very appealing for Game Week 34. I think if you don't have the free hit for Game Week 34, I'd go for Darwin. Valtea says, need to take a -8 or a -4 to make a competitive team and save the wildcard, or okay to wildcard now. It is okay to wildcard now, but if you're looking to bench boost in 37, my preference would be to wildcard in 35 at the very least, because you can build a full 50-man squad of double gimmick players in 37, and beforehand you dead end into gimmick 34 and focus on this upcoming double instead. So a -4, -8 isn't too bad, honestly. Bailey to Diaz or Doughty to Van Dijk? That is a great question. Diaz has been great recently, but my preference is Doughty to Van Dijk. Andrew Barton says, thoughts on this one, Dylan? Gone Areola to Kelleher and Garnacho to Luis Diaz, hoping the former gets me past Gemic 34. Yeah, with Kelleher, there is a chance he doesn't start both games in 34, but yeah, he certainly will start one of them at least, in my opinion. And even before that, against Palace and Sheffield United at home, a good chance of at least one clean sheet. Olsen says, best 4.2 and under defender on wildcard, free hit 34, bench boost 37, already have Gusto. Yeah, difficult because Richards would have been perfect for non-free hitters. There aren't many options. Lascelles is also out for the rest of the year. Newcastle have been decimated by injuries. Very tricky to find a 4.2 million and under defender. I'll try to look for one now very quickly, but it's very slim pickings to say the least. So I'll try to find one now and see what I can come up with. So 4.2 million and under. Maybe Branthwaite would spring to mind, but he also doubles in 34. Might not be much use to you beyond that, but I think Everton's fixtures are quite decent between Game Week 35 and 37. Brentford at home, Luton Town away, and Sheffield United at home. So it's something to consider, at least. But yeah, very slim pickings now. Yeah, I'm going to struggle to find one. Connor Bradley looks good just as a single Game Week punt. Might not be too useful for you long term, but Connor Bradley is the best budget defender right now up until Trent comes back, which could be by next week anyway. But I'd say Branthwaite or Bradley, depending on if you want someone shorter term or a bit longer term in Branthwaite. So thank you to those that have liked the stream. It's massively appreciated. Let's get this stream to over 100 likes. And beyond that, maybe we can push on towards 150. But let's see how we go first. Isak or Darwin if on free hit 34? Isak. Bench Bowen or Palmer? I'd bench Bowen. How long does Keller have his place for? Well, up until Alisson comes back, which could be by Game Week 34. And it looks like Alisson could be back by the second game of that double game week. So you'd expect Keller to start Game Week 31, 32, 33, and one of the Game Week 34 matches. Thank you, Marco107. Happy birthday, Dylan. Hope the day has been good for you so far, and moreover. Thank you, Marco. It's been good. Yeah, the stream is also going okay so far. Just a bit frustrated about the drop frames, but there's not much I can do on that front. So let's see what else we have. There are a lot of questions coming in. I try to be patient. I will go through them. Might have to whiz through some of these. Is Henderson a better pick for Game Week 34 or Neto, knowing I'll be doubling up on the defense with Neto? Yeah, I can understand why you wouldn't want to do that. I still think Neto has a higher sling than Henderson, so I'd probably go for him. There are a few people who think that Neto could still be benched for some reason, and that would be a massive blow. I'll be honest though, my favourite Game Week 34 goalkeepers are Raya, Pickford, and Kelleher if you can start both games. Sell Bowen or Foden for Salah? Sell Bowen. Foden against Crystal Palace away, Luton Town at home, and those fixtures for the rest of the season. That double in 37, I'd much rather have Foden for that alone. Bench one out of Solanke, Cunha, or Tony, says Wasif. That is incredibly tricky. Based on the minutes potential, I'd probably bench Cunha, but that is very risky. Start Richarlison or Sarabia? Sarabia. Orlando James says, is it worth it to transfer in Salah and Nunez for Watkins and Foden for a -4? Yes, I think it is. Not ideal to sell Foden for a hit, but overall, you're bringing in some great players. Koopsy Coop says, hey Dylan, should I do Maddison to Havitz or Diaz? Really tempted by Havitz, but don't know if he starts or not. I think Havitz will start, but like I mentioned earlier, I think there could be 2 or 3 surprise inclusions for Arsenal, like Thomas Partey or Tomiyasu for the likes of Kivior and Jorginho. But I'd also expect Martinelli to start. That's my personal opinion. I'll be honest, even regardless of your fears about Havitz starting or not, I'd rather go for Diaz. I think he's a better FPL option up until Game Week 35. Wasif says, which forwards are you going for in FPL Challenge? I have Nunez, Haaland, and Manice. What are your thoughts? Going for Manice as a differential captain? I've currently gone for Isak, Manice, and Haaland. Before that, I had no Haaland and Darwin instead, and a more balanced squad overall. But yeah, my current plan is to go for Manice, Isak, and Erling Haaland. Your front three is absolutely fine, but with the quadruple points for a captain, I think Erling Haaland is the best captaincy choice for that fantasy format. Marco says, need a defender to buy for Lascelles to bench boost in 37. Akanji, Gavardio, Van Heck, Burn, Branthwaite. It'd be Gavardio for me. Now, a lot depends on when Ake returns, but it looks like he could be out for some time. At this moment in time, I think Gavardio's the best to buy. That could change by the time we get to Game Week 37. So Grenier says, hey Dylan, option A, Son and Watkins to Salah and Darwin, or option B, Dallo and Luiz and Watkins to Bradley and Salah and Mateta. So I'm not sure how many hits are involved. So if option A is for a -4 and option B is for a -8, that could change things. But my overall preference is to go for option B. Yeah, I think option B is probably the better one. Yeah, I think that's what I'd go for. Thank you, Elliot. Hi, Dylan. You're looking fresh, mate. Injuries ruining my season again. Yeah, tell me about it. I mean, I had, before my 2 free transfers, I had 4 flag players and due to injury and 1 suspension. So 3 red flag players and a couple of yellows and oranges. So it's been absolutely insane. I remember some of your comments from earlier streams as well, Elliot. You have had a lot of bad luck. Hopefully it does turn very soon. Manice, Cunha or Semenyo for Watkins, and of course, Gameweek 34. Cunha looks good with that double in 34. I'm just concerned about him this week. So the way I look at it, I think Manice is better up until Gameweek 33, but Cunha is better for Gameweek 34 and 35. For that reason, I've gone for Manice myself, and that's what I'd suggest to you. But Cunha's a nice differential, and if I knew he'd start and play at least 70 plus minutes, I probably would have gone for him in the end instead of Manice. ARX says, is it worth to do a -8 to get Salah and replace Areola? Don't have a playing goalkeeper, or should I use the wildcard? Only have wildcard and bench boost left. I'd take the -8 hit. I can understand that about the goalkeeper, that's fair enough. I think Raya or Pickford is the best bet for you in goal. So Adil puts his team: Dubravka, Van Dijk, Borro, Saliba, Zabani, Salah, Son, Saka, Palmer, Solanke, Watkins, bench Areola, Morris, Pau Torres, Gordon, 1 free transfer, 3.6 million in the bank. Any advice? Sell Watkins or Morris? Ideally, you'd sell Morris. He is an injury doubt. I know he's cheaper, but Watkins in general is a better FPL option. The only downside to it is that you might limit yourself in terms of future moves. But you've already got Van Dijk, you've got Salah, you've got Saka, and an Arsenal defender. You're quite well set up for Gameweek 34. You're planning to wildcard in 35, that's fair enough. But in terms of your free transfer, you've got a lot of money there to use. I think Morris being upgraded to maybe a Darwin Nunez or an Isak, maybe even a Cunha or Mateta is the best play for you. So yeah, I think Morris is the one to sell. Udogi or Zabani for the long run? Udogi. Now, that depends on if you free hit in 34 or not. And ultimately, if you don't free in 34, you'd rather have Zabani up until Gameweek 35. But yeah, with the future doubles for Spurs in Gameweek 36 and 37 potentially, Udogi is the better one up until the end of the season. Gusto or Zabani? Probably Zabani. Rayhan says, I have Bowen, Son, Saka, Palmer, and Foden. Who to sell for Salah? Difficult decisions, isn't it? Despite the possible rotation risks and concerns about Saka, I wouldn't sell him. Same with Palmer. I'd probably sell Bowen. Best 4.2 million under defender. Like I mentioned, Larkin, I'd probably go for either Bradley or Branthwaite. Now, you're free hitting in 34 anyway, so my suggestion would be Branthwaite. He might not be useful to you in 37, but yeah, I think Bradley is the best one long term, because beyond that, there's not many options who will double in 37, who are also good FPL options, who are also kind of fitting that price category. Captain Isak, a good punt. Yes, especially in FPL Challenge. I'm a bit less keen in normal FPL, but yeah, that's not too bad. Any news on Cunha? He should be in the squad, according to Gary O'Neill, sorry. But is he going to start or not? We don't know. So yeah, Ratchet, Cunha should be fit for that game, but will he start the game and play 70 plus minutes? That's the big concern. But if you're asking me, I think Cunha will start. How much does Salah play against weaker squad in a midweek match? Worried about captaining him and him only playing 30 minutes. Yeah, unless Liverpool do something similar to Arsenal a couple of weeks ago and they're 4 or 5-0 up at half-time, I just don't see Salah being subbed off that early. Could it be subbed off around 60, 70 minutes? Yes, but I'd be quite surprised if he only got 1 appearance point. Let me put it that way. It's a good point you make there. But yeah, I think Liverpool will win very comfortably in the end. But there might be some late goals in there and they won't have it completely wrapped up by half-time. Thank you, Mohammed. Hello, Dylan. Hope everything is well and you're enjoying your day. Would it be wise to get Cunha or Manice and Salah for Watkins and Son for -4? I had the same dilemma as you, Cunha or Manice. I went for Manice, and that's mainly because with Cunha, I'm unsure if he's going to start this game and play as many minutes as I'd like. And I also think Burnley could cause Wolves some problems. I actually think it might not be the best week to buy Cunha, which sounds crazy because the fixture looks really good on paper. And Cunha got an assist earlier this season against them. But I think for the next 3 game weeks, Muniz is better. If you want someone in place of 34, Cunha is just a sensible pick and a bit safer from that perspective. In terms of your other question, Salah for Watkins and Son for -4. Yeah, I've done the same thing myself. And yeah, I'd probably go for it. I have Robinson, A Nuri, Udogie. Stick with this or get Arsenal defence. If you can buy an Arsenal defender for free, I'd do it and bench Udogie. I think that's what I do. Toe says, I only have 4.4 million to get a goalkeeper since Ariela's injured. So who to get? Probably Kelleher in that. Because Pickford's 4.6 million. Raya's even more expensive. Neto is also, you know, beyond your price range. And the other goalkeeper I like, is there really another one I like for Game Week 34? Not really. So yeah, I'd probably say Kelleher. But just bear in mind that he might not start both games in Game Week 34. Let's see if I can go for a few other questions here. Bench Haaland or Palmer? Probably Palmer, but that's not good. It really isn't. Jidera says, my team, wildcard, or should I wildcard? Free at 34 and bench boost 37, or take a -8 for Haaland, or get Isak and DS for a -4. Now, with Erling Haaland, I like him a lot this week, but I wouldn't take a -8 hit for him. I think the time to take hits for Haaland will be Game Week 33, when Man City host Luton Town. So I'd rather go for Isak and Diaz for a -4 hit in your team situation there. Happy Human says Richarlison and Lascelles to Saka and Bradley, or Son and Lascelles to Saka and Van Dijk. I would go for Son and Lascelles to Saka and Van Dijk. But I think the big determining factor for you, Happy, is Game Week 34. If you're not free hitting in 34, definitely go for Saka and Van Dijk. If you are free hitting, then Bradley and Saka is the best play because it allows you to keep Son, sell Richarlison, and also have Bradley, where he's going to be very useful to you in Game Week 31 and potentially 33 against Crystal Palace at home. Upiyuko, I think it is. Hopefully I haven't butchered your name. My current bench is Gusto, Lascelles, Gordon. I've got 5 million in the bank. Should I use my one free transfer to get Gabriel or someone in for Lascelles in case there's rotation? That's not a bad shout. I'm also looking at something similar, taking the hit to also prepare for that eventuality. Yeah, the thing is, I'm not sure who's in your starting 11 because you might have some nailed-on players, no risk of rotation or injuries whatsoever. So you don't need to get a transfer in for Gabriel, but there's a good chance of a clean sheet. Just bear in mind that Luton Town have scored in 19 consecutive Premier League games. I think it's the biggest streak of any Premier League club, actually, and it wouldn't surprise me if they scored against the Gunners, but Gabriel's a great transfer long-term. Game Week 34, he's got the double. He's also a season keeper, in my opinion, so I don't mind it whatsoever. Lascelles is obviously a sell. So yeah, I'd probably do it, but you don't absolutely have to, and having 2 free transfers next week is also quite good. Best defender who doubles in 34. Already have Gabriel and Raya and Zabani. Well, Arsenal defenders in general are great, so it could be White, Saliba, even Kivior, but apart from that, I think Van Dijk is the clear standout. Adil says, thanks, hoping Watkins will be fit for Game Week 32 when most people would have sold him. It would be a great differential, I think, for those that have kept him, and if he is fit, I'm kind of fearing the worst. Whenever I've sold Watkins, I've been burned massively. We'll do Morris to Darwin for free for now. Yeah, I think that looks really good. Even if Darwin is benched in Game Week 31, it's not the end of the world. You should pay off that transfer by Game Week 34. JC Snook says, I have wildcard free hit bench boost left. Happy with the team today. Plan to free hit 34, bench boost 37. When is the best time to wildcard? So you do have the free in 34. So I think that opens up the possibilities for you. So depending on your team and how many transfers you need to make, or how many injuries you have, I think it's between Game Week 31 or 35. Those are the 2 Game Weeks you want to look at. Now, the disadvantage of wildcarding now is that by Game Week 37, when you want to bench boost and theoretically have as many double Game Week players as possible to have maybe 15 doublers, there might be a lot of injuries happening by that stage, and that could force some hits later down the line. So if you're asking me, my preference is the wildcard in 31, because you'd also have only 1 free transfer directly after using the free hit in Game Week 34. But it is team dependent. I don't know definitively with your squad because I don't know what your team is. Thank you, Yusuf, for the super chat. Massively appreciated. Start 2, Cunha, Maddison, and Chris Wood. I'd probably go very tricky question. Maddison has only blanked once this season away from home. Cunha's just come back from injury. Chris Wood's in great form, but it is an away fixture there against Bournemouth. I'd probably go for Maddison and Chris Wood. I just have a bad feeling about Cunha this week, and that's another reason why I didn't buy him in the end. It's something that I felt after I published the team selection video, doing some more research and looking at some head-to-head stats between Burnley and Wolves. But look, I could be completely wrong. Good luck with your final decision, but I would go for Maddison and Chris Wood. No Salah, Darwin, Diaz, Saka or Haaland captain. Ooh. Oh, okay, right. Sorry, I misinterpreted your question for a second. I'd go for Saka out of those options, but they're all good options. They really are. I think the way I'd rank it is Saka first, Haaland second, Diaz third, and Darwin fourth, but very close call. Thank you, Patrick. Happy birthday, Dylan. If I don't have Salah, is Saka the next best option for captain? On paper, he certainly is. It's a tricky one because there are some doubts about his minutes. Even if he starts the game, he might be subbed off a bit early. I think Haaland and Diaz, for example, are two great alternatives, as Junior mentioned. But yeah, I think Saka's the next best in line. We're still getting a lot of questions coming in. I do appreciate that. Haaland or Son captain? Haaland. And thank you, by the way, to those that have liked the stream already. And for those that are still tuning in, those that send in super chats, massively appreciated. And all the channel members and patrons, be sure to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Our aim is to get to 23k subscribers, and we're going to try and get to that by the end of next week if possible, especially all the Champions League content that I'm looking to bring out on this channel. Of course, I am on holiday. That's why I got a different setting. And yeah, today has been chaotic to say the least. Start a Doggy or Zabani? Zabani. What cheap forward that has a double would you bring in for Watkins? Probably Cunha. Not a big fan of him this week, but I do like him up until Game Week 35. After Cunha, it's Mateta. But yeah, I'd go for Cunha. When do you think Trent is back? Probably by Game Week 33 against Crystal Palace at home. And is he a must-have for the double? Not necessarily, because I don't think Trent starts both games in the double. And that also makes Bradley less desirable right now. And that's the reason why I didn't buy him last week, which was my original plan. So I don't think it's a must-have for the double. Do you think Elanga is a keep or a sell? Yeah, Elanga is a bit of a weird one. He's in and out of the team. On his day, he's brilliant, but I think he's a sell. I really do. Justin Woe says, doing Wildcard 31, free hit 34, indecisive of a Havitz, Richarlison or Mbeumo. Now, Thomas Frank said that Mbeumo is ready to start now, but my preference at the moment between those three is Kai Havitz. Start Moreno or Gusto? Definitely Gusto, 100%. Moreno away to Man City, I just don't see anything whatsoever. And I said this about Arsenal last week, I was wrong, but Aston Villa, I just don't see them giving a clean sheet. I really don't. It'd be a miracle, in my opinion. I still have triple captain. What game weeks do you recommend to use? Well, game week 34, 37 are obvious, but if you have a free hit or bench boost to use in those game weeks, the next best week would be game week 36 when Chelsea double on paper, according to Planet FPL's projections. So in game week 36, they could have 2 home games against West Ham and Tottenham, and I'd go for Cole Palmer as triple captain there. So it really depends on that. If you don't have the free hit, I'd use the triple captaincy on Salah in game week 34. If you don't have the bench boost, you could even use the triple captaincy on Erling Haaland in game week 37 or Heung-min Son. So a lot does depend on that. And there is a 5% chance of Chelsea and Spurs having a triple game week. So that could also play a big part, and you just easily put the triple captaincy on a Heung-min Son or Palmer there. Timothy says, am I risking too much for wanting to captain Luis Diaz? Well, if you can't afford Salah, then it just makes sense. I think Diaz is a nice option. He's in great form, and Sheffield United are there for the taking. Even when they're 3-1 up, they even go 4-1 up, the goal gets disallowed, they end up fumbling the game in game week 30 against Fulham. Yeah, I think Liverpool could easily destroy them. 4 or 5-0 would not surprise me, and it's a great game for Liverpool to claw back the deficit in terms of goal difference on Arsenal. Diaz or Darwin on the wildcard? Diaz. Welcome, Ala Madrid. I'm doing well. What about you? Radovan says Burn, Zabani and Borro. Start one, and which one first on the bench? Start one, I'd probably say Borro, and Zabani first on the bench. Now, I do admit, I think Spurs have a slightly weaker chance of a clean sheet. then Bournemouth. But Bodo's attacking threat slightly puts him above Zabani for me. I think both teams ultimately concede in Game Week 31, regardless. Junior Fantasy, I think I answered that, but my next best captain after Salah will be Saka, and bench Maddison or Palmer, I'd bench Maddison. Alan Basso says, my defense is Kirkes, Gabriel, Region, Udogie, and Doughty. I'm thinking of doing a -4 from Doughty. Should I get White, Saliba, or Gvardiol? I'd go for an Arsenal defender, especially if you aren't free hitting in Game Week 34. Now, if you are free hitting in 34 and you're bench boosting in 37, Gvardiol might be a better option for you from that perspective, but I'd still go for an Arsenal defender. So either White or Saliba is absolutely fine. There's not much in it to separate them. Ben White is more of a differential, so maybe that's going to entice you to go for him. I'd say Ben White. Omara says, hey Dylan, Son to Salah, Watkins to Manice, and Estupinian to Bradley, 8 Nuri, White for a -8. I have Richarlison, Saka, Foden, Maguire, Robinson, Solanke, and Erling Haaland already. What do you think? I like it a lot. I really do. Son to Salah, it's not ideal to sell Son, but it makes sense. It's an upgrade. I've done the same thing. Watkins to Manice looks good. Bradley looks really good for this week. Just bear in mind that Bradley might not be a regular starter from Game Week 33 onwards once Trent is back. And that really isn't definitive yet, but a lot of sources do indicate that Trent will be available for the Man United game, or if not, for Crystal Palace the week after. But overall, -8 hit, looks great. In terms of deciding on those defenders, my favourite will be Ben White. Ainer is not bad. As good as Bradley is this week, I think Game Week 34 is a big put-off for him, so I'd go for Ben White. Patrick Samuel says, if I don't have Salah, is Saka the next best option for captaincy? Yeah, I think so. He certainly is on paper. Now, is FPL a football player on paper? No, it isn't, as we all well know. But yeah, I think Saka is the next best option. Surendra says, hey Dylan, I've taken a -8 hit for Raya, Salah, Cunha, for Areola, Son, and Watkins. Looks good to me. I almost bought Cunha myself, and I wish you the best with that transfer. I think Raya's really good, and of course Salah goes without saying. Yeah, I think overall the -8 hit will pay off. Courage says setup is Leno, Doughty, Alex Moreno, White, Foden, Bowen, Palmer, Salah, Havitz, Manice, Haaland, benches Areola, Solanke, Mikalenko, Senesi. Got 1 free transfer, wildcard, and bench boost. Okay, that's interesting. Right, so wildcard 35, bench boost 37 is probably the play for you. 1 free transfer. I'm just wondering how much money you have in the bank, but I'd be very tempted by moves such as Bowen to Diaz, as one example, or even Saka, who you don't have. So that is something you could consider. Well, you've got Solanke on the bench, fair enough. Yeah, it's a good squad. I like it. I think over the coming weeks, you might want to go for a goalkeeper to bolster your Game Week 34 prospects. Your defense looks... I think your defense is the one to improve on this week. I wouldn't... Well, I say I wouldn't. You don't have much choice this week. Doughty's an injury doubt, and he's facing Arsenal away. Alex Moreno away to Man City. Yeah. As much as I'd recommend Saka or Diaz, I think your main priority is the defense. I'd probably go for Van Dijk if possible, for Alex Moreno, and you could even sell Doughty as another example, and maybe you can go to 8 Nuri. I think it could be worth it even for a -4 hit. Alexander says KDB, Watkins to Salah, Cunha, or Watkins to Darwin. I'd probably go for Darwin, but if you are able to get to Diaz, whilst also going for Cunha, and you can do this by Game Week 34, that would be very tempting. It really would. But in terms of Cunha versus Darwin, I'm still going to go for the Uruguayan. Nicholas says Foden and Watkins to Salah and Manice for a -4 hit. Yes, just about. I'd go for it. Is Son to Saka good, says Ruben? Yes, it is. I believe it is, especially if you aren't free hitting in 34. I do apologize, by the way. The bitrate has been a bit of an issue. Let me know, by the way, if there's any kind of drops in audio or in the frames. I'll try to sort that out by the next stream, but yeah, the internet is very unstable here. It might require downgrading the quality even further from 720p to 360p, but it could ensure a smoother viewing. I'm going to whiz through the questions I haven't answered because there are so many, and I do appreciate it. Be sure to smash the like button and get the stream to over 100. Yes, there's so many questions coming in. Udogie or Gusto? Gusto. Hey Dylan, I'm selling Watkins, Doughty and Foden for Salah, Manise and a cheap defender, budget 4.6 million for a -4 hit. All these to bring in Salah, planning to buy 8 Nuri. Your thoughts? I like it a lot, I really do. I really don't think there's another alternative for defenders at that price and below than 8 Nuri, especially with no free hit in 34. So yeah, that is absolutely spot on. Burn, Zabani and Bodro. I have answered this, Radovan. I'd start Bodro and have Zabani first on the bench. Hey Dylan, could you choose two, Zabani, Branthwaite and Burn? Zabani and Burn. Buy Saka or Havitz? I'd buy Saka still. Is it worth a -8 for Salah? I think so, but it also depends who you sell. If you're selling Saka for a -8, then I'd say no, but if it includes, let's say, Bowen, I'd still be very open to it. Thoughts on Bradley captain? In terms of defenders this week, I think Bradley's the best, so I'm not actually against that. Yeah, Haaland is a differential. I mean, it seems this season, when there's a template pick who everyone seems to captain in the community, it seems to go wrong, or it's not that, you know, maybe it's a bit disappointing. There might be a differential who ends up being even better, someone we didn't think about as much or talk about. So I'm actually not against either Haaland or Bradley as a captaincy option. They're both easily my top 10, possibly even the top 5. Marco107 says, better to get Van Heck now and get the best City defender for Bradley, Gabriel close to bench boost phase 7, or Gavardio now for Lascelles whilst he's a differential and can play him in the next few game weeks. It's a very tricky one to evaluate, but I think information is so important, and I'm not sure if Gavardio will be nailed on by the game week phase 7 bench boost, so I think the first option is better for you, Marco. I really do. Priya says, Udogi or Zabani, who to start? Zabani. Justin says, doing wildcard. Yeah, I did answer this, mate. I would go for Havitz. Thank you, Tomisho. Happy birthday, Dylan. Who's the best defender under 5.2 million? I'd say 8 Nuri. Thank you, John, as well. Appreciate your insights and patience with this fun, but occasionally frustrating FPL game of ours. Yeah, that's one way of putting it. And now we've got double the trouble with FPL Challenge, if you're still playing it. Kilman, Bradley, or Zabani? Definitely Bradley this week. I'm not going to deny that. It's just with Bradley, my concern is Game Week 34 and even Game Week 33 to some extent. I'm not sure if he's going to start all of those games, especially once Trent is back. Save free transfer or sell the cells for any 3.9 million defender. I'd probably save the free transfer and use maybe another transfer later down the line to gain some funds and upgrade Lascelles to a more expensive defender, whether it be 8 Nuri, Ben White, Virgil van Dijk, or another Game Week 34 doubler. And if not, you can still go for some better defenders than those at 3.9 million or below. Hey Dylan, start Region or Zabani? Zabani. Alan Madrid says, my team for this game week. Suggestions on goalie as Areola is injured. So your defense looks really good. Your midfield is very solid. The front line is good, despite Tony being very frustrating recently. So yeah, the goalkeeper is the biggest issue, but the Dubravka is okay for this week. You're probably not expecting anything in terms of clean sheets, but 2 or 3 points would be something. If you were to make a goalkeeper transfer, I think Areola to, just checking how many Arsenal players you have. So you've got Gabriel and Saka. For Liverpool, you've got Bradley and Salah. So you do have an open space there for both teams. Yeah, I'd still go for either Raya or Pickford as your goalkeeper if you were to make such a move. Renan Costa says, Foden, Solanke and Manise start 2. Foden and Solanke. Now, there is a doubt in the back of my mind, which I have to convey about Solanke. I think Bournemouth could struggle against Crystal Palace. I really do. So from that perspective, it's very close between Solanke and Manise. But Solanke's been so consistent this season, I can't ignore that, and I'd go for him. Toast says, Salah, Saka, Son, Haaland, who to captain? Now, the boring play is Salah. I think he's the best option on paper. But to go a bit different, I think Saka or Haaland look great. I think Son's at the bottom of that list. I could be wrong. He's done it against West Ham in the past, but away from home, London derby, I think it could be a very competitive game. Yeah, I think Salah for me is the best, but if you want to go a bit different, I think Haaland could be great. I really do, actually. Hi, Dylan. Is there a section in the stream for Wildcard Fellas in Game Week 31? I have covered quite a few questions on Wildcard 31. Even towards the beginning of this stream, I showed you a kind of provisional Game Week 31 Wildcard team. But of course, there are so many different caveats and different scenarios. For some people, they're not free hitting in 34, but some other people are. And that changes the complexion of the wildcard as a result. Junior Fantasy says bench Maddison, Palmer or Darwin. I'd bench Maddison. Start Kirkes or -4 for another defender. I'm in a similar situation with Zabani instead. Unless the defender is Virgil van Dijk or Gabriel, any Arsenal or Liverpool defender, I'd probably just start Kirkes. Thank you, Dutta. Start Gusto or Borro. I'd start Borro. Areola to Raya for a -4 or play Dubravka. I'd play Dubravka for now. I think Luton Town will score against Arsenal. That's my prediction, but Raya will pay off that hit eventually anyway, if I'm being honest, because Gameweek 34 has got the double. I can see one clean sheet there against either Wolves or Chelsea. Yeah, I'd probably stick with Dubravka for now, but a -4 hit for Raya isn't bad at all. Omar Beck says, hey Dylan, could you choose two? I believe I have Zabani and Burn. Adil says, buy 8 Nuri or Cunha. 8 Nuri. Notkish says, Sarabia or Manice this week. Manice. Romero or Gusto. Gusto. So Alanga to Foden for a -4 hit. I still would, you know. I really would. Dogesh says, save free transfer or sell Lascelles for a 3.9 million defender. Save the transfer. So some of these questions we have answered. So just refer back to my previous answers just a few minutes ago. And yeah, we're eventually catching up to this chat. Isak says, play 2. I would play Foden and Solanke. Do you think Gusto starts this week? Yes. I can't guarantee it, but I think he does. Sagar says Areola to Jose Sarr for a -4, or do I start Kelleher? Oh, you should definitely start Kelleher. Now, I mentioned a few doubts about Kelleher, but that's going to be in Gameweek 34. For the time being, Kelleher will start. Alisson's not back. There are no issues whatsoever. Do not bench Kelleher against Sheffield United. Start Gusto, JP or Van der Ven? JP. Sorry, my mind is going blank with JP. I'm probably butchering that. But yeah, I'd probably go for Gusto. Although, like I mentioned earlier, JP, I'm not so sure about. Dutta, I have answered your question about Gusto or Borro. I would go for Gusto. Palmer or Manice bench? I'd bench Manice from those two. Sell Foden or Son to Saka? It is team dependent, but in most cases, I'd sell Son. I think the extra value, also the fixtures play a part. And if you're wildcarding in 35 anyway, you can buy back Son by that stage. Foden or Maddison? Foden. Alan Madrid says, thanks Dylan, and many, many happy returns of the day. God bless you, brother. Thank you very much, and likewise to you. Side down? Maybe. Maybe you are right. And in terms of the countdown clock we have, just over 20 minutes left. Time has definitely flown by. Of course, my usual deadline streams are a bit longer than this. I had to start a bit later due to a few reasons, but yeah, hopefully the viewing has been decent and there haven't been too many issues. Ubina says, should I take a hit to remove Watkins? If yes, who's the best replacement? Look, I don't want to sit on the fence with these answers, but context is very important because are you free hitting in 34? Are you not? That does play a part in it, but selling Watkins to Darwin, Manice, even Cunha or Mateta, I think could be worth a -4 hit because of the extra fixtures they have and also just the fixture quality they have in general. Raj says Isak or Darwin to... Isak/Darwin plus Keller for a -4. I have Areola, Turner and Watkins. I love the transfers. And in terms of Isak versus Darwin, I would buy Darwin if you're not free hitting in Gameweek 34. If you are free hitting in 34, then I'd buy Isak. But in terms of Kelleher, bear in mind for Gameweek 34, if you need Kelleher for that double, he might not start both games because Alisson could be back by that point in the season. But overall, transfers are really good and I do like them for now. Havitz or Saka this week? Havitz is very tempting, to be fair. He really is. But I just think if Saka starts, and I think he will, yeah, I think Saka's a great option this week. I'm going to go for him. Might seem template. If you disagree with me, feel free to do so and back your gut on that one. Palmer or Manice bench? I have answered this, Ted. I would bench Manice. Twisted Parky says Lascelles, Gusto, Ake out. Have Gabriel and a doggy with Anana and Petrovic. Who to pick for 37 but avoids doubling on the defense from the same teams, but they double in 37. 2 or 3 options. Right, I get you. I get you. No defensive double ups. 2 or 3 options. So yeah, with Lascelles anyway, you want to sell him. Twisted Parky. You could do something like Lascelles to Trippier if you have enough money, or even Fabian Schär. Lascelles won't be back by the end of the season. Might not even be back by the end of the year. So that would be my suggestion, as bad as Newcastle are defensively. The other defenders I'd recommend are Dalot. But then you said you have an Onana, so that makes it difficult. Other teams that double in 37, it's very slim pickings from that perspective. I think 1 or 2 doublets might be necessary. So if I'm just have a quick look at the projected fixtures and see how things could fall. Just give me a second. All right, so for Gameweek 37, looking at your squad, you might have to go for a Brighton defender. If I'm not mistaken, you don't have any. Okay, so Lascelles, Gusto, Ake out, have Gabriel Udogi with Onana and Petrovic. Now, bear in mind, Gusto could be back, and by Gameweek 37, he's almost certainly going to be fit by that stage. So I would keep Gusto. But for Lascelles and Ake, might be out by that stage. I'd go for a like-for-like in Newcastle, so Schär or Trippier. And the other one could even be Gavardio as a like-for-like. But that all depends on the fitness of those two players. Obviously, Lascelles we all know about, but Ake could be back by Gameweek 37. And that would make Gavardio less appealing from that perspective. I like Dalot in general, to be honest, and I don't mind that double up defensively because you could also enjoy a potential clean sheet in either Gameweek 35 or 36 because Man United have Burnley at home and Crystal Palace away just before that double in 37. So I know you said no doubles, but I really like Dalot from Man United. I really do. From Brighton, you can go for Van Heck. And apart from that, yeah, I like the replacement for Newcastle, Man City in either Gavardio, Ruben Dias, or from Newcastle, you're looking at Trippier or potentially, yeah, I'd say Schär. Thank you, MJ. Happy birthday, Dylan. Foden for Dias or Ake for Van Dijk for -8. I'd do Ake to Van Dijk. I still think Foden's a great option up until Gameweek 34. Weising says Morris plus Moreno to Darwin and 8 Nuri -4 worth it. Yes, it is worth it in my opinion. Buy 8 Nuri or Cunha. Buy 8 Nuri if possible. Start Ortega or Pickford. I would start Ortega. Also Mateta over Maniz. Yeah, look, it's not a bad shout, and I was really considering it. Same with Cunha. I think Mateta's a good option, but you'd probably want to bench him for Gameweek 32 and 33. Buy Odegaard or Havitz, our wildcard in 35. Havitz has been in better form FPL-wise. Very tricky one right now. And he is playing up front most of the time, which is very appealing to say the least. Right now, I'd say Havitz. I really would. Start 2, 8 Nuri, Maniz, Borro. I'd start 8 Nuri and Maniz. I'd bench Borro. No worries, Raj. Start Dalot or Zabani. Already have Neto, says Callum Jr. I wouldn't start Dalot this week away to Chelsea. I think they'll concede. I'd go for Zabani. Bench Cunha or Saliba. Bench Cunha. The Fantasy Football Lad puts his team. So transfers this week. Bowen to Diaz and Walkers to Darwin for a -4. Looks good. Son captain. Very interesting. I wish you the best there. And sometimes differentials are rewarded. I wish you the best there. Who to pick for Lascelles' replacement? If you can stretch to him, go for 8 Nuri. Irish Maverick says, if you had to sell Son for Salah and was already on a -4 with no goalkeeper, would you consider wildcard instead? I have no free hit. No. I mean, of course, considering a wildcard is always something you should do. Keep your options open and be a bit different to the crowd. But in my opinion, with no free in 34, I think the best plan is to dead end your team into Gameweek 34, take hits if necessary, and wildcard out of it, because no team that doubles in 34 will double in Gameweek 37. And the best way to navigate both Gameweeks without a free hit is to wildcard in between in Gameweek 35, especially if you're looking to bench boost in 37. Son to Salah -4, I would do it. Deadmaster GVBB says start 2. Mateta and Zabani for me. Sorry, Mateta and Borro. Very close between Zabani and Borro. It's 50-50 pretty much, but I'd go for the Spaniard. Start Palmer or Foden. Palmer, just about. Sarabia or Palmer. Palmer. Blaine says, I'm bringing in Haaland, so I need to sell Son for something cheaper. Who is the best? I don't know what budget you're operating with, but Diaz from Liverpool is probably the best option if you can go to him. That one's covered. Hi Dylan, sell Stupinian to Gavardio or 8 Nuri. I'd go for 8 Nuri, especially if you aren't free hitting in Gameweek 34. Do you think it's worth playing Manice or take a -4 for Darwin? Just play Manice, in my opinion. Best time to wildcard? For most people, it's Gameweek 35, but that's not going to be the same thing for everyone. Weiseng says, do we use wildcard to set up which Gameweek's bench boost? For me, the best time to bench boost for most people is Gameweek 37, and you'd wildcard in 35 to set that up. Antonio over Haaland in FPL Challenge? It's worth going for differentials in FPL Challenge because you're not going to win it. And you could say the same about FPL to a certain extent, but you certainly won't win FPL Challenge by just going for every single template pick. But I really back Haaland to do well this week. Antonio's in good form, and he has scored against Tottenham in the past, but I'd still go for Haaland. I have Rice, no Saka, no Havitz. What's your thoughts? Well, Rice was in great goal-scoring and assisting form very recently, so it's not the worst option in the world. Having said that, Saka and Havitz are more likely to get attacking returns because of the positions they occupy in the pitch. And of course, they're attackers, so it just makes sense. They also are further up the penalty duty ladder than Declan Rice is. Start Sarabia or Palmer? I go for Palmer. Some questions have been repeated, so I'm not going to go through them again, just for the sake of the viewers as well. I'm going to go through the ones I haven't answered very quickly. Manice or Mateta need to play, probably short term, and no free hit. I'd still go for Manice because from Gameweek 31 to 33, you can start him every single week, and I'd expect him to do well. With Mateta, might do okay this week. I don't back him to do well in Gameweek 32 or 33. Bench Estupinian or Romero? Tricky one. I'd probably bench Romero. Manice or Cunha? Manice. Ashish says, bought Kelleher, Gabriel, and Darwin for Areola, Ake, and Morris for -12. Thoughts, mate? Not a big fan of -12s, you know me, but I think this is a decent time to use hits, especially to set up a Gameweek 34 team without the free hit. Start Kirkes or Udogie? Kirkes. I have Salah, Palmer, Son, Saka, Solanke, Haaland, and Darwin in the 11. Should I try fit in Sarabia? It's not a bad shout. Cunha's my favourite Wolves attacker who's currently fit. He might not even start though. And Sarabia's second. The thing is with Sarabia, who do you fit him in for? Maybe Solanke, but I wouldn't bench anyone else for him. Take a -4 to get a second Liverpool asset besides Salah. I'm looking at something similar, mate, and I might end up doing it. Taking a hit, a birthday hit, which hopefully bodes well. Yeah, I think it could be worth it. So either Diaz in the midfield, Darwin up front is also potentially worth it, but my favourite Liverpool options besides Salah are Diaz and Virgil van Dijk. Take a -8 for Raya. I have Turner and Areola. Yes, I would. I'd take a hit. By the way, just say yes or no in the live chat. Should I take a -4 hit to buy Virgil van Dijk for Nathan Ake, which would mean benching either Porro or Zabani? Let me know in the live chat right now. Say yes or no, and we'll see how that goes. I could put a poll as well, but I did put something similar on my YouTube channel already. Play Udogie or Van Heck this week? Probably Van Heck. Should I bench Palmer or Isak for Manice, says Coopsy Coop? Really don't want to bench Manice versus Nottingham Forest. I can understand that, but I wouldn't want to bench Palmer in any game, especially at home to Manchester United, and also Isak. I probably wouldn't bench any of them. With Isak, there might be some doubts about his fitness in general, and of course, one Newcastle player could be injured on top of all the other injuries they have. A few sources have been quite, cryptic with their messages, but if Isak's fit, I'd definitely start with Manice this week. Daryl says, sell Bowen for Diaz for a -4. I would. I really would. Best goalkeeper this game week? Kelleher. Alan says, thanks for your answer. One more question. Should I start Kirkes, Region, or Elanga this week? I'd probably go for Elanga from those three. Wildcard or -8? Probably -8, but depends on a few factors. Are you bench boosting in 37? Do you have a free in 34? These things obviously play a big part. I'm assuming you don't have the free hit, but I'd rather take the -8. Reda Anala says, Solanke to Manice and Son to Salah for a -4. Very tricky one. I'd say yes, but if you aren't free hitting in 34, selling Solanke is far from ideal. Would you keep the armband on Son or switch to Saka or Palmer or Diaz? I think Saka or Diaz would be my favourites from those. Look, fixtures aren't everything, and Son could do very well against West Ham. Palmer can do well against Man United. Haaland as well against Aston Villa. It's very tricky to tell with these players, but yeah, you got to back your gut there. You went for Son, but I'd personally rather go for Saka. Havitz for Bowen -4. If you aren't free hitting in 34, then that could be a shout, but I probably wouldn't. Okay, so quite a lot of no's in the chat. That's fair enough. Bit enough. Thoughts on Harvey Barnes? He's in great form, making an impact off the bench. And in my opinion, he forms part of Newcastle's best front three with Anthony Gordon and Isak. He's going to start this week for sure. It's not a bad shout. I actually like it. Thank you, Jojo. Massively appreciated. And also to Benny Blanco. Udogi or Zabani? Zabani this week. Now, with Borro, I slightly prefer him because of the attacking potential. But we're talking about very fine margins between these two and the Spaniard as well. Mateta or Menis, no free hit in 34. While Mateta's better for Gameweek 34, but I would argue in Gameweek 31, 2, and 3, Menis is better for the next 3 game weeks. And also in Gameweek 35, potentially. In my personal opinion, Menis is the better option. Best midfield without Salah. I'd say Saka, Diaz, Palmer, Foden, and Heung-min Son. That is the best midfield 5. And if you're also looking to add more doublers for 34, you could also consider, for example, a Kai Havitz, an Odegaard, Martinelli. Yeah, I think that's probably the way to go. Bench Gross, Eze, or Palmer. I'd bench Gross. So thank you for those that left the feedback in the live chat. That is massively appreciated. Might put a quick poll out quickly, but yeah, in the end, I might just play a bit safe and not just take the bloody hit. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you to those that liked the video already. Massively appreciated. Let's get this stream to 150. It'd be massively appreciated. And also subscribe to the channel. We're looking to get to 23k subscribers. I think we're just over 100 away. So we're looking to get to that very soon. Hopefully by next week, that is going to be the aim. But if not, we certainly will be aiming to do that by the end of the season. Yeah, I'll put the chat very quickly. Put this poll and then get back to your questions. So take a -4 hit to sell Ake to Van Dijk. Okay, just do this very quickly. We literally have less than 7 minutes remaining. Be sure to lock in your teams and get everything in order. Yeah, the questions are still flooding in. I do appreciate it. I will get back to you very soon. Okay, let's get back into your questions now very quickly. Go for it. I did a -4 for a Liverpool asset. Fair enough. Is Bradley a good transfer? He is a good transfer in the short term, but Trent is nearly back, unfortunately. Within the next week or two, probably by Gameweek 33, Trent should be back. Bench Bodro or Kirkes? I'd bench Kirkes. Does Kirkes start? I believe he will. Raya or Neto? Raya. If I get Burn, only have 5.1 million. If I get Dallo, we'll have to get someone for 4.3 million max, which could be Van Heck there in that perspective, Twisted Parky, but the double isn't great from a defensive perspective. That's the problem. Hey Dylan, I'm currently chasing rank. Who can I captain other than Salah? I would say either Saka. I mean, he's not really the biggest kind of like differential, but any of Saka, Haaland, Diaz would certainly appeal to me. And another one is even Palmer against Manchester United. Amon Kibit says, start Bowen or Mateta. I'd probably start Bowen, but very close call. Thank you, Reda Anala. Massively appreciate. And also to Simo. Do you like Eze as an option? Yes. And actually, let's do this very quickly. Let's go to FPL.Team and show you my provisional transfer plan. So, might have to ignore this one about Virgil van Dijk. So, keep Ake in there for now. So, see if I can reset this game week very quickly. So, for bloody hell. What have I done? What have I done? So, Gameweek 31. Let's get Virgil van Dijk out. Get Ake in. Then we'll start Zabani. Okay, so Gameweek 32, I could roll the transfer and also see if Ake comes back. If so, that'll be a massive boost to my team. Not ideal to start either Doughty or Zabani. So we can go for something like this. Start either Areola or Dubravka, depending on Areola's fitness. Gameweek 33, I could also make one free transfer. And I'd probably have to make another defender one by then. Yeah, I'm looking at this at this stage, and I'd have to get Virgil van Dijk at some point, either Gameweek 31 or 33. And then, yeah, in Gameweek 34, my plan is to get this sort of setup Ignore the -8. I think it could just be for a -4. I think it's just kind of reverse the Ake transfer again using FPL.Team. But yeah, with a -4 hit in Game Week 34 and a -4 hit now, I can get 10 doublers for that double game week and Erling Haaland. So that would look quite good. I might just refresh the page because I completely messed up these transfer plans. But Virgil van Dijk will eventually come in for me. I do like him for this week and also against Crystal Palace and the double in 34. To be honest, I might just take the hit. I really don't want to play it too safe as well. I've got nothing to lose with my rank. It's decent rank, but it's not great. It's the worst I've had throughout the time, from my time of playing FPL. Okay, good thing. For a second, I thought I ended the stream prematurely. That would have been an absolute disaster. But yeah, I think Virgil van Dijk, I might just go for it. I know some of you might be shouting no from the other end of the stream, but I think I'm just going to do it. Ake out for Virgil van Dijk. Then it comes down to benching either Zabani or Borro. In terms of the poll, quite close, but 56% have said no. So yeah, just going to end that poll. Thank you to those that have voted. I do appreciate that. And yeah, I think I'm just going to take the plunge, go for Virgil van Dijk, and see what happens. The only downside to this is that I have less flexibility for future weeks due to the limited budget. But I could still do Doughty to Nuri in the next couple of weeks, should I need to. The same goes for Pedro Porro downgraded. That could be another way of funding money. And apart from that, I think it should be quite easy for me to make the other moves I'm planning to do, like Foden to Diaz and Anthony Gordon or Palmer to an Eze. So yeah, I think I'm just going to buy Virgil van Dijk and bench one of Zabani or Porro. Very close call. Very close call. But there we go. I have made the transfer. Let me just make sure to buy or bring Virgil van Dijk into my starting 11. And I'm currently benching Zabani. Let me know your thoughts down in the comment section below in the live chat. Would you bench Porro or Zabani? I'd be very interested to see what you have to say. And now we literally have just under 2 minutes. Start Petrovic or Onana. I would go for Petrovic. Rank Gusto, Udogie, and Van Heck this week. Probably Gusto first, Van Heck second, Udogie third. Dylan, McAllister or Sarabia? McAllister. Start Udogie or Gavadio? Gavadio. Omar, I did answer your question a few times earlier in the stream, and I said yes, I would probably do it. In terms of stooping down to a 3.9 million defender, it's not ideal, but I would sell Son just to make things a bit simpler. I'd rather sell Son than Foden. Weakest part of your team? Oh, definitely my defense. Definitely my defense. Apologies if I've already answered, but who's the best Liverpool defender behind Virgil van Dijk for the long run? That's the problem. With Robertson, injury problems. And of course, you've got Konate, who's a very injury-prone player, and his minutes might be managed in general. Bradley looks really good for the next couple of weeks, but once Trent is back, I just don't really like it. I think Joe Gomez might be the one, actually, just because he can play in so many positions. Bowen or Solanke? I'd start Solanke this week. Gusto or Porro? I'd start Gusto. Thank you, Wei Sing. I appreciate that very much. The Argentine go over UCL Fantasy, I doubt that. But I do bet in UCL Fantasy, that's for sure, than in this game. Yeah, like I said, Marco, I would start Gavadio. Bench Solanke or Palmer for Sarabia. If I had to pick one, it'd be Solanke benched. Yeah, let's now quickly go back to my team, by the way, because I was still on the other one. Literally got seconds to go now. I've benched Sabani. I've started Pedro Porro. Let's see how that goes. I really hope Bournemouth don't keep a clean sheet now. That would be a disaster, especially taking a -4 hit. But that is it. We are locked in. I have made the following transfers of Virgil van Dijk, Salah, and Maniz for Nathan Ake, Heung-min Son, and Ollie Watkins. What could possibly go wrong? Let me not tempt fate. But I've at least got a bit of cover now in terms of my bench. If anyone does miss out, I've got Zabani coming on. Salah's my captain, Saka's my vice. Very boring stuff, isn't it? But maybe the -4 hit does differentiate me from some managers, hopefully. And I do have some different plans for the next couple of weeks. I didn't go for Cunha in the end. And going for Maniz has allowed me to go for Virgil van Dijk a bit early. Let's see how it all pans out. I do appreciate everyone tuning in today. Be sure to drop a like on your way out. And let's get the stream to 150. And yeah, also a massive shout out to those that sent birthday wishes, the patrons, channel members, those that send in super chats. All of it is massively appreciated. Start Maguire or Robinson. I would have just gone for Robinson. Bench one, Foden, Garnacho, and Richarlison. Probably Garnacho. Watkins to Isak or Darwin. I've said this a few times throughout the stream. I would go for Darwin if you aren't free hitting in Game Week 34. If you have the free hit to use in that game week, I'd go for Isak. My overall favourite is Isak longer term. They both have their issues. Ruben says start 2, Zabani, Gusto, Doughty. Zabani and Gusto. Havitz or Diaz 1 week punt? Probably Diaz, actually. Foden or Garnacho? Foden. Building upon the question by Coopsy Coop, one of Havitz's best performances in an Arsenal shirt was against Luton Town earlier this season, and this was in a time where he was quite inconsistent, especially in terms of FPL output. But yeah, I'd go for Diaz. Daryl says sell Foden for Diaz for -4. I probably wouldn't. I like Diaz a lot for the next couple of weeks, but I'd go for Foden for now. You could always sell Foden to Diaz in Game Week 34 because you might not want to miss out on Luton Town at home in Game Week 33 and even Palace away. I think Foden can do really well next week. Have a great day, Dylan. Thank you, Sad. Thank you very much. Start Garnacho or Semenyo. I would have gone for Semenyo. Bradley or White. Bradley this week. Longer term, Ben White is certainly the better option. Any updates before the deadline? Not that I'm aware of. If there is anything, be sure to let me know in the live chat. But a lot of the updates we did get before the deadline stream even started about Watkins being ruled out definitively and also Nathan Ake. Play 8 Nuri or Gusto. Definitely 8 Nuri. Wow, I have no Spurs assets. What have I done? Yeah, neither do I. Heung-min Son's been great for me all season. Whenever I've had him, he's been great. When I've sold him, he's been a pain. But it has to be done for Salah, in my opinion. Yes, we are fully locked in. El Padrino, always a pleasure talking to you. And thank you to Keith for the very generous super chat. You didn't have to, mate. Wait for the deadline to pass. Have a great birthday. Safe travels. Thank you very much. You're always massively appreciated. And yeah, it's good to, well, I've known you for so long. And thank you for being a channel member for so long as well. And yeah, you didn't have to do that. You don't. I'd probably say in the future, don't send any more. But thank you very much. Would you go for Trent on a Game Week 35 wildcard? Depends, really. Because if he's fit by then and he's able to start games consecutively, it could be a shout. And one thing we could see from Liverpool later this season is Trent slotting into the midfield and Bradley playing right back, because I think that could be a great combination on the right-hand side between those two and Salah. But right now, I'd say no. And also, for a lot of people wildcarding in 35, they'd want a bench boost in 37. And yeah, really, it's going to be a bit awkward because Trent doesn't double in 37 and the fixture isn't great against Aston Villa away. Yep, fully locked in now. Gakpo triple captain? Surely not. But good luck to you regardless. Marco, I did answer that question. I would start Gvardiol. Bench Bordereau probably. I think Bournemouth have a better chance of a clean sheet. Yeah, I also agree with that. But I don't expect any of them to keep a clean sheet ultimately. And I'm looking at attacking potential, and I would go for Bordereau. Yeah, I actually forgot. I said I had no Spurs options myself. I do have Bordereau, but not that great, really. Good luck, Dylan, and enjoy your birthday. Decide to captain Luis Diaz. Hope it goes well. Likewise to you, Sudindra. All the best of luck. Thank you, Chris. Massively appreciate. Same with Punjabi. John Hamilton, thank you. Omara says team locked. Started Robinson ahead of Maguire. Yeah, I agree. And I did Son to Salah, Watkins to Manis, and Estupinian to White. Let's go, Dylan. Yeah, I think that's ultimately the best case scenario for you, because if you sold Foden instead of Son, you would be forced to go for a 3.9 million defender, and spoiler alert, there aren't many good options at that price bracket. I benched Palmer and Nuri for Sarabia and Gusto, but when I hit save, it went to update screen. Don't know if I went through. I've seen a few people mention this in earlier streams. I think Twisted Parky might have mentioned it a month ago, possibly even longer than that. And he said that the transfer went through. So, yeah, hopefully it did. Do you think Arsenal keep a clean sheet? I actually don't, you know. I think my prediction is 3-1 Arsenal. Yeah, I think Luton Town get a goal. They've got currently the biggest or the longest streak of scoring in consecutive Premier League matches. I think it's 19 games. If not, it's probably 20 after the Tottenham one. I have to double check that, but it's a great record. Where are you locating, Dylan? And what was your nationality? Well, my nationality is Argentina and Britain, you could say. I was born in England, but my family are from Argentina. And where am I? I'm in sunny Spain. It's a bit cloudy right now, but it is also 7 p.m. local time. Twister Parky says, team, Onana, Burn, Gabriel, Udogi, Palmer, Son, Salah captain, Saka, Manice, Haaland, Isak, bench, Petrovic, Foden, Gusto, Lascelles. Yeah, it looks really good, Twister Parky. I'm trying to find a bit of, maybe some nitpicks, probably just Udogi and Onana for this week specifically, but they're good long-term options. So overall looks good. I'm just a bit worried about benching Foden for you, but the rest looks good. Good luck for you. Good luck to you and the rest who are watching. Cunha starting on the bench. Let me know where you saw that, Ahmed, but if so, yeah, I'm quite happy I didn't go for him if that turns out to be the case. Oh, sorry. Apologies, lads. I went for the beer out back screen a bit prematurely. Yeah, what's absolute moron. Yeah, so this is my FPL challenge team. Let me know your thoughts. If I remember correctly, I think I had Darwin Núñez instead of Haaland. I had Phil Foden instead of Havitz. And I also had, instead of Joe Gomez, I went for Gabriel. And it also allowed me to go for, was it Martinelli instead of Sarabia? So there were a few changes from that team. By the way it works, so we do have certain games taking place right now. So if you aren't aware, if we go back to this screen here, these are the fixtures. And yeah, I'll go for my predictions right now before talking about the loophole in FPL Challenge. So Newcastle versus Everton. I went for 2-1 against West Ham last time out. It ended up being 4-3. I'm going to go for 2-1 for Newcastle again. And I did see someone in the live chat mention Livramento could be out. So thank you for that. Nottingham Forest against Fulham. Wow. I think I'm going to go for a 2-1 Fulham. Bournemouth Crystal Palace. 1-1. Burnley versus Wolves. That is a really close one. I'm going to go for a... You know what? It might surprise some of you. I'm going to go for a draw. 1-1. West Ham versus Tottenham. 2-2. Arsenal versus Luton Town. 3-1 Arsenal. Brentford versus Brighton. That is really tricky to tell. Brighton are the better team, but Brentford have had some joy against Brighton, especially last season at home. I'd probably go for a draw here. 2-2. Man City versus Aston Villa. I'm actually going to go for a 2-0 Man City. Liverpool versus Sheffield United, probably 5-0 Liverpool. And Chelsea versus Manchester United. Wow, that is a very tough one. United have never won a game against a Big Six club, I think, away from home. And also a top half side. Unless they changed that recently. Yeah, I'm just struggling between a Chelsea win or a draw. I think I'm going for a draw, so I'm going to go for a 1-1 there as well. So a few surprising predictions in there maybe, such as Wolves to concede and to draw. Also for, what was it? Brentford, Brighton to draw, Tottenham to draw. Let's wait and see how it all pans out. And let's now go back to my FPL Challenge team. Thank you for that. So yeah, as I mentioned, I did quite a few changes to be able to incorporate Haaland. You really want to have one big hitter striker that you fully trust. And Erling Haaland is that for me. Remember, captains, in terms of the forwards in FPL Challenge, they score double the number of points in Game Week 31. If you captain a forward, they'll get quadruple the number of points. And if, for example, Isak gets a massive haul, he's currently my vice captain. What I could do is then change Erling Haaland to a red flag player. So then the captaincy switches over to the vice captaincy in Isak and his points are doubled. And I could do something similar for my bench as well. So if Manice hauls, I could just then turn any of my defenders or midfielders into a red flag player to ensure that Manice comes on as well. So that's the way it kind of works. If you have any questions about it, be sure to let me know. Thank you, Nuclear Amps, for that update. Yeah, FPL Tony said it, so probably quite reliable. Thank you, Twister Parky. And yes, you are right, Wacing. Ahmed says, thanks yet again for a great live. Enjoy the rest of your vacation. Safe travels and good luck to us this week. Exactly that. Thank you very much. Best of luck to you as well. I will be back by next Wednesday, so it'll be normal settings from the 10th of April onwards. But for the Use Your Fantasy deadline stream, I will still be here, and the hope is to still be able to do a stream, but it's going to be hectic because I'm basically going to be packing for, an early travel the next day. But I'll try to get a deadline stream for Use Your Fantasy. That's definitely the priority. and to also do a deadline stream for Saturday this week. I won't be able to get the usual FPL content out, every single video that I normally do, but I'll try to get as many as possible. No reaction streams up until I return, but that shouldn't be too long anyway. Thank you to everyone for tuning in. Thank you, James, and good luck to you and your club. I wouldn't mind if West Ham won, that's for sure. Adil says, I have a feeling Klopp will give Gakpo minutes to boost his confidence. Yeah, and also with the congested fixture schedule, it makes sense to rotate a little bit. Argentina is a great country to visit. I typically go to visit family. I've been to a few other places, which, Argentina has a bit of everything in terms of beaches, although they're not that great, maybe, in terms of comparing them to other countries in South America. But they have got great mountains. They've got, obviously, they're close to the Arctic Pole. Yeah, there's so much there. But I've been to a few places. Yeah, happened to me, was okay, but you never know. Exactly that. Any plans for your birthday tonight? Just a simple chilling with family, having dinner. And that's pretty much it. Dylan will be eating tapas tonight while watching the football. I'll probably just eat some Indian food or Italian. There's quite a lot of different, cultures in terms of restaurants where I'm currently at. I'll probably have tapas eventually, but I had paella earlier, if that kind of counts for anything. You need 3 forwards, double points. You need 3 forwards, right? Yes, yeah, of course. That's why I was talking about that with Manice, where if he hauls, I can still find a way to bring him in by basically bringing in a red flag player for any of my starting 11 players to ensure that Manice will come on for me. That's why I've got it ordered that way. But you're right. All of you are absolutely right about that. Any tips about getting rid of a sore throat and cough? The same things I mentioned before, but yeah, sometimes just getting water, putting some salt in it, and then gargling it. No, nothing weird from that, but that's one thing you can do. Drinking tea with ginger, honey, and sometimes lemon. Having as many fruits as possible, like tangerines and oranges, to boost your vitamin C. Sometimes even tablets, vitamin C tablets, multivitamin tablets, they're really good, especially in terms of preventing it in the first place. I kind of take vitamin C tablets every single day at home, and I haven't really had any illnesses since I've done that. Dylan, in the challenge, strikers points will be doubled. Yeah, you're absolutely right about that. But I'll probably sort that out very soon anyway. But I do believe the loopholes work. I've seen a lot of examples of it. So yeah, if Mini starts full tonight, I can always bring in a red flag player for one of my starting 11 options, and Manice will come on. Also, Muric for FPL. Yeah, I'm quite surprised that he's now come into the team, but not really too keen. The only goalkeepers I'm looking at are Raya, Pickford, and longer term Onana and Petrovic. Hey son, says Ahmed. Hey father. That same Cunha source said Trippier's fit and starting as well. First time seeing his account. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I'm always a bit apprehensive about first time, leakers. United, says Arthur. Just a prediction. It's just that record does sit in the back of my mind, and it just depends on which United turn up. But I certainly hope you turn up against Liverpool next week. Do forwards this week include mids? No, just forwards, strikers. So Manice will eventually come in, that's for sure. Even if he blanks, 4 points will probably outscore any of, well, at least one of my midfielders. Thank you, my Fairground M. Massively appreciated. Your challenge team looks a bit less adventurous. The goal is to win. It looks too safe. That's a fair criticism. I think yesterday I had no Erling Haaland and it was a bit different, so to speak. I still have some time to change it, but yeah, I think it's a bit template. Wait, so you are seeing if Manice does well, so if he does, you can swap a player for an injured one. Sneaky. Who would you sacrifice? A defender? Probably, yeah. That would be the plan. But it's not set in stone, by the way. I didn't even make a video or have a lot of time to think this FPL challenge team through, but it looks decent. It's just a bit template. Thank you, Adil. Nuclear Atom says, I scored 84 points in the first challenge by trying out all the loopholes and everything worked. Exactly. I had a feeling that it wouldn't work, and I saw something in the rules which indicated that it wouldn't, but in the end, everything you said in the comment section a few days ago worked. Yeah, Omabek, I'm not sure what... yeah, I try to read out every single question possible, mate. Yes, it's exactly that. I've mentioned this a few times in the stream. For FPL Challenge, for this week only, forwards score double the number of points. If you captain a forward, they score quadruple the number of points. Hence why Haaland's my captain and Isak's my vice. To be fair, Man United completely dominated Chelsea in the reverse fixture. True, but it was at Old Trafford. And away from home, United are very unreliable, especially against top half sides. Although, Chelsea aren't top half, just saying. So I could do this with Isak and Solanke. Yes, you could do so, but Last week, I didn't do any of the loopholes. I played the game just like that, and I didn't even bother about the captaincy and all of that jazz. So it is what it is. I'm trying out this time around, seeing if I get any, extra points from it. But yeah, it's just a shame these kind of loopholes or these kind of rules exist. It would have been better for the game to be simpler. My plan is to vice captain Antonio and captain Foden, so that if Antonio hauls, Foden turns to red flag, and also if he doesn't work out, then change the captaincy to Darwin. That's absolutely fair enough. Looks pretty good. Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, that's a really good way of playing it. So you have as many captaincy opportunities as possible. But I'm not going to lie, especially because I'm on holiday, it's not really ideal to do such a thing. Thank you to those that have been tuning in today. Massively appreciate as always. If you haven't already, smash the like button and subscribe for new. Let's get this stream to over 150 likes, and let's keep on pushing to 20 3K subscribers and beyond. You can also follow me on Twitter and Instagram, DylanRCM, and check all the other links in the description below for the Patreon, Championships Discord server, the FPL League, FPL Challenger League, Drafthound, which I showed you earlier in the stream. It's a great resource, and many of you have been signing up, and you are talking about how useful it is. And not only that, all of my videos and live streams are available in podcast format. Follow me on Spotify and Amazon Music. Leave a 5-star review and support me on those platforms as well. I'm also on Reddit nowadays, so be sure to give me a follow on that as well. Cylindra says, which one of Wood, Manice, Forster would you get an FPL challenge? Probably Manice. That's what I've gone for myself. I don't mind Chris Wood though. He's in great form. I think he's got 8 goals and 9 starts this season. But Manice is my preference. Thank you to Stepaki and Nuclear Atoms. I'll see you very soon. All the best of luck to everyone watching. I'll see you hopefully for some more deadline streams for FPL and UCL Fantasy. I'll let you know and keep you updated on that. And I'll try to get the main content out for FPL and UCL Fantasy while I'm on holiday. Take care. Enjoy the football. I'll see you very soon. And I wish you all the best of luck, as always.